folks. We are going to call the meeting of the Public Works Committee to order. We are just shy of quorum for voting purposes, but we can still get going with announcements and information. And so first, we have a guest with us who I'd like to introduce from the Mayor's Office, Faye DeMassimo, who will be working on transportation initiatives. So, Faye, welcome.
Well, I look forward to working with everyone. Just joined last week, so I'm just on week 2 right now. But you may have heard, I'm certain a bit about the Mayor's commitment to developing a plan in the first year that he's in office that creates a roadmap and all kind of map of how we want to successfully meet all the transportation opportunities and challenges in the future. So I know I'll be working with everyone in this room. I look forward to it. I had an interesting first week last week. I'll tell you a little bit, poke fun at myself. So on Wednesday last week, I went to the meeting that was hosted to roll out the new plan update initiative. The governor was there and the commissioner was there and so forth. And the very first speaker, and I'm kind of sitting toward the back of the room, and you probably know if you've heard the announcement, some of the announcements, and heard my own announcement that I came here from Atlanta. So the very first speaker that goes up, there's a picture up on the screen, huge picture, terrible, terrible, bumper to bumper, awful, nobody wants that kind of traffic, and says, and there's Atlanta. And that's an thought. So about half the people in this room are going, did you know the mayor brought somebody over from Atlanta? Help us out? And they've got to be thinking, what on earth? So I just want to say that all that traffic predated me, and it got better while I was there. But I think that I've worked on transit properties, worked with the DOT, been with Federal Highway for a bit. I've got almost 40 years in transportation, but I've worked on 5 successful referendum programs and 1 that wasn't. So that's a pretty good track record.
That's a good success rate.
Anyway, but I look so forward to working with you all, and if you saw that image and tagged it to me, please try to.
All right. Well, welcome to you. I know Councilman O'Connell, who serves on this committee, but also chairs our Traffic, Parking, and Transportation Committee.
Right.
We'll look forward to meeting you and his
Absolutely.
committee members and working with you as well. So thank you for coming to say
Thank
hello.
you all so much.
Thank you. Okay. We do have, with the arrival of Ms. Benedict, welcome. We do have a quorum, so we can actually get going on voting on things. I also want to announce the vice chair of this committee for this year will be Councilman Zach Young. And so I appreciate everybody's interest. It was a pleasure to talk to folks and kind of see where your areas of policy interest are and your previous experience. Councilwoman Evans and others had really great experience with beautification and some of those efforts particularly. So I think we've got a lot of strength on this committee as to folks' experience. But I look forward to serving with Mr. Young. So with that, also kind of in the recycling sphere, the Public Works Committee met on Friday, October 25th to discuss proposed amendments to the recycling contract. And so that can be found online. We discussed the contract specifically as well as the broader landscape of recycling and the zero waste initiatives. Ms. Smith, you were kind to provide a handout at that meeting, and did we get that handout to the committee subsequent to that meeting, or?
No, I can make sure everybody gets it.
If you'd send that to me, then I think I'll send that out to the full council and maybe with a link to that meeting as well. So y'all be on the lookout for that, please. Also, just by way of chair's report, it was my pleasure to present with Michael Briggs at Planning and Ashley French at Public Works updates on the implementation for the sidewalk legislation and our new internal waiver process that's effective September 1. Intent there is to have kind of subject matter experts in stormwater, at Public Works, looking at those potential waivers and still making that transparent to the community, having notice provisions, having all that online, and all that is up and running. There's a landing page for it, good transparency. So I look forward to council members' feedback, but I think that'll have less things before the BZA, kind of at the discretion of folks who really aren't engineering experts, right? And so several of y'all were there. I think there were maybe just as many council members at the walk bike meeting as there were community members. I do want to express a special appreciation to Mr. Briggs in his effort for the kind of implementation, the public-facing side of that as far as the Nashville.gov website. So that was really helpful. Also, Council Lady Allen is not here yet, but the mayor did announce his support for the 25 mile per hour initiative on neighborhood streets, which was advanced by legislation that Council Lady Allen and I co-sponsored last term, and Council Lady Allen will be serving on a task force for that implementation. So we'll see if we can be getting updates from her on that. Upcoming meetings to put on your calendar, and for the community's awareness, November 13th at 4:30, there's a joint meeting of Public Works and Budget and Finance Committee with the comptroller regarding our water rates. So please make sure you have that on your calendar. Also, November 18th, special committee on sidewalks led by Councilwoman Benedict. And so we look forward to working with her and supporting her in that effort. And November 19th, for 3 o'clock in this room, there's a hands-on session about the Hub app, and it's kind of data and reporting and how to utilize that. So the majority of concerns, if y'all haven't determined this yet, from council members and community are in the Public Works space. And so there'll be another session on December 3rd at 3 if you can't attend that. Okay, welcome, folks. Ms. Gamble, Ms. Evans, Mr. Bradford. Okay, all right. Now we have a super core. Okay. Alrighty, so let's then just move straight into the agenda. RS 2019-44, Murphy and Stiles approves an intergovernmental agreement between the Tennessee Department of Transportation and the Metro Department of Public Works for a general maintenance agreement for Smart Corridor Phase 2, I-24, from I-440 to State Route 10 in Murfreesboro and State Route 1 from I-24 to State Route 10 in Murfreesboro and various connector routes.
Move approval.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion regarding this? Public Works, Mr. Hammond, I know we've got a proposed substitute here. Is Council Lady Murphy or Ms. Stiles are not here?
Styles just got convictions.
It's Murfreesboro Pike, is it?
It is.
I think I'm on there in case you spots are sitting.
Are you? Okay. Sledge on here. Okay, so, yes, sir.
Just had a question when we get there.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I guess if staff could share with us the information about the substitute, please, and then once we understand what that substitute is, we can move the substitute.
I'm not sure I have any more information on the substitute. I can talk in general about the project as part of the I-24 project. The TDOT project, we are a partner along with cities of Murfreesboro, Laverne, and Smyrna, in an attempt to coordinate traffic progression in the Murfreesboro Road corridor.
Wasn't the substitute just an issue of the TDOT number not being correct?
That's right. It was I remember that now. It was a
Okay.
federal ID number. I think that there was a typo in there.
Okay, so the substitute issue is just by way of typo. So let's see. Let's then move the substitute. Do I have a motion for that, please?
So moved.
Okay, second.
Second.
Okay, and so let's then, I apologize, got a little out of order, move the bill as substituted.
So moved.
second? Second. Okay, great. All right, so thank you for sharing with us what the substitute was, which was just a technicality. Are there any questions on the bill as substituted or just the larger bill in the smart corridor? Councilor Murphy is now here, the lead sponsor on this.
I am the lead sponsor by virtue of being your planning chair.
Right, okay,
So any questions, I would defer to the department.
to staff. Okay.
And I thought there was a letter.
There,
Do you need me? I have another
there is a
committee.
second bill that is similar, that I
Okay.
think is in 2-meeting deferral. Is that correct? So, yeah, this, it's just.
I'll just stick around.
Okay. Any other questions, colleagues? Yes, Mr.
I
Leach.
I had a question about the radar detectors and the cameras involved. I'm assuming that's for monitoring and not enforcement?
That's correct. It is, we use it for detection, meaning so when a car or a bicycle or a pedestrian approaches the intersection, those systems are detecting that vehicle or that entity and triggers the signal, let us know it's there. There's no recording or any of that as part of that.
Okay. And I believe, was it Councilman O'Connell that had questions about this at last meeting? I believe so. I feel
We
like.
did have an email from him asking some questions along those lines about what is the role of the video
Okay.
in that, and so it is a detection device.
Okay. So, Mr. Hammond, had you emailed the full council regarding that, or just, I feel like I was CC'd on that email,
You were.
perhaps? Okay.
I responded to his email and CC'd you.
Okay, I appreciate that. So, colleagues, any other questions related to that? Okay.
I will, Council Lee, if I will, I have asked our fiscal on our side, and I'm not sure if I got an answer because it could have come in the vast number of emails that we've gotten. For future pieces of legislation like this, I am going to be requesting that our fiscal notes accurately reflect an estimate. Right now, they say that we will be responsible for maintenance in the future. You know, the standard legislation is TDOT's providing this equipment or whatever, they're paying for it, and then we pick up the cost in future years. I think that at some point, when everyone is telling us that their budgets don't have enough money to cover things, we should have some estimate of a cost of yearly maintenance for that we're increasing. So,
And at present, has staff estimated that cost at all, or?
In most cases for this project, these are all existing signals, and in most cases, because we're upgrading to new equipment, it's actually probably a savings. For our detection now, we're still using electromagnetic loops, which break all the time, and we have to replace those, so this will be an upgrade to that equipment.
right. And so I'm hoping that our fiscal notes will start reflecting
Yeah,
either a cost or a savings, so we can more accurately know what we're voting on.
And Mr. Hammond, I assume this assists with transit priority and other things like that, or is this just from a sequencing of lights perspective where?
It will coordinate with the transit signal priority project that just happened. It just so happens it's kind of along the same corridor, and it does extend that, but it is primarily due to incidents on the interstate and those types of things. But it does begin to set the groundwork for more advanced, smarter traffic signal operations.
Okay, alrighty, so I guess anything that we would use for transit signal priority would integrate with this system, but that would be at our cost or separate. But,
Right. It stays in, and the system would coordinate with that.
okay, so this is basically just for cars at this point?
Primarily, yes.
Okay. Are there any conversations when we engage with TDOT about making a technology advancement like this about, I mean, kind of part course implementing this? I mean, how difficult it is to come back and add transit component to this system?
It's not, and in fact, it's a benefit. So we get new controllers as part of all this. We get all new detection. All of that is great for us because we can use that. We do get some pedestrian equipment. Most of that's already in place in the corridor by nature of the TSP project. One thing we are tracking very closely with them is to make sure that when these incidents occur, if signal timing changes occur, we don't jeopardize the local nature of that.
Okay.
Murfreesboro Road to us is a local road.
Right.
It's a state highway, but we want to make sure, you know, businesses and travelers and especially pedestrians can continue to use that road as it's intended.
I appreciate that. Councilman O'Connell, this is RS 2019-44 regarding the smart corridor at Murfreesboro
I have a
Road.
question.
Yeah, yes.
All right, and Jeff, I know you and I have corresponded about this a little bit, but you have suggested that there will be no video capture per se, right? We are not storing this video.
That's right.
Alrighty, okay with that. Any other questions, Councilor Hurd? No? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Moving right along, let's see, how many do we have in here now? Councilman O'Connell, we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 of us. 10 in favor, 0 against. Okay, let's see, Resolution RS 2019-74 authorizes the Director of Public Property or designee to exercise an option agreement for the purchase of a flood-prone property located at 724 Height Street for Metro Water.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Right. RS 2019-75, Councilor Murphy and Henderson approves an intergovernmental agreement between Tennessee Department of Transportation and the Metro Department of Public Works for a signal maintenance agreement for State Route 1, also Murfreesboro Road, from Division Street near Volte Boulevard. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay. Alrighty, Ms. Murphy or Mr. Hammond, can you explain that to us, please?
This is part of a pedestrian safety project of which we have, I'm guessing, about 8 of these on various pipes around town. This is the first one up because they are requesting that we put in a pedestrian-activated flashing signal, and so this would be on Murfreesboro Road in the area of Claiborne Street. So that's what this is for.
Can you explain to us, Mr. Hammond, how, so like in a major corridor like this, if you're giving the pedestrian priority to push that button and have the lights go on, what is that, like, how does that work in concert with, you know, the traffic flow and prioritization and so forth?
Yeah, there's very little interaction. In fact, there's no interaction between what is going in as part of this and the traffic signals that are out there now.
Okay.
What this activates is a yellow flashing beacon, which is a warning. It is not a regulatory device, and so we use these at unsignalized locations and at mid-block locations around town just to provide additional warning to pedestrians crossing the street.
So is this mid-block?
This is, I don't believe this is mid-block. I believe it's at
At an intersection?
I believe it's at Claiborne.
Okay, and so by law in Tennessee, anybody at an actual intersection, whether it's marked, lighted, or otherwise, the car has to stop for the pedestrian.
Has to stop? I thought we were a yield state.
We're a yield state, but if the pedestrian's in front of you, it becomes a stop. But it is a yield state.
Right, okay, we can work on that later. Alrighty, all in favor?
Aye.
Councilman Roten is joining us. And Council Lady Allen, thank you. Alrighty, okay.
From Bradford.
Moving right along. Thank you, good. Already had Russ had already been here. Roten. 100% attendance, well done, committee, all right. RS 2019-76, Mendez and Henderson accepts a grant from Keep Tennessee Beautiful for the Metro Public Works Department for additional litter prevention activities. Do I have a motion? Okay, how much is this for, please?
$6,000.
Okay, and it's going to be used countywide, a particular initiative, what?
Yeah, we'll use it to get cleanup supplies
Okay.
for a volunteer and adopt a street programs.
Okay, alrighty, thank you so much. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, okay. Committee, I'm going to suggest a mini consent agenda of sorts for our 4 aerial encroachments. I assume those are all in Councilman O'Connell's district. Yes, they are. Councilman O'Connell, are you okay with that?
I feel personally attacked. But
I'm not going to give you 4 moments. I'll just give you...
I'm totally okay with it.
Okay, you're fine for those being consolidated. Okay, so just for the public record, these are resolutions RS 2019 77, 78, 79, and 80. These have to be read into the record. So 77 authorizes Pant LLC to construct and install an aerial encroachment at 210 4th Avenue North. Resolution 78 authorizes MATS 123 LLC DBA Matheson's to construct and install an aerial encroachment at 123 2nd Avenue North. Resolution 79 authorizes 119 South LLC to construct and install an aerial encroachment at 121 3rd Avenue South. This is like a lesson in numbers all over the place. And then Resolution 80 authorizes Complexion Nashville PLLC to construct and install an aerial encroachment at 158 Rosa L. Parks Boulevard. Do I have a motion for these 4 resolutions?
So moved.
Okay. All in favor?
Hang on. Wait,
Oh, pardon me. Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
just for point of information here, I will say to any new members, particularly on this committee, the area encroachment process does require basically mandatory referral to most departments that would have anything to do with this, including specifically planning, public works, and typically insurance staff. If I'm missing anything about the encroachment process, let me know. You know, council's review is the kind of the final step in that, but it does go through a resolution process for aerial, and it's basically to ensure if you are extending above a public right-of-way that the city has a role in ensuring safety of anybody passing under that because it is encroaching in the airspace of that right-of-way. There's also underground encroachments that I think are actually done as bills instead of resolutions, and that is for anything that would be tunneling under a public right-of-way, but that's just for point of information.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you, Councilman O'Connell. Okay, moving on, Resolution RS 2019-84, Councilman Hall requests the Metro Water Services Department upgrade, retrofit, and/or construct all existing culverts, inlets, storm drains, and ditches within the T2 Rural Neighborhood Policy and T3 Suburban Neighborhood Policy to current stormwater management manual standards by January 1st of 2025. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay,
Councilman,
motion
if I
is,
could interrupt, do I have anything else on this agenda?
let's see, Councilman Murphy, you do. You have actually quite a few things.
I'll stick around.
I apologize. Some of which I'm going to consolidate into consent, abandoning some alleys and so forth, but,
The curse of the planning chair.
yes.
Carry on.
Yes. Councilman Hall, would you like to explain your bill?
Sure. And a lot of you guys will be familiar with this. This is something that actually we covered over several months last year. And it was originally as an ordinance that we worked diligently on, but continued to have conversations about. It actually got to 3rd reading, and I pulled it last term. And that was because we were still engaged heavily with Public Works and Water over several issues. Those same conversations have continued even up to now. And so I've spent, and I tend to single them out sometimes, an extensive amount of time with, folks in each department. But Mr. Honeysucker, I see him back here hiding at the corner, has, put in some additional hours to make sure that every question I had or concern that I had come up. And we're still working that long-term that we'd be able to move this as far as a 10-year, part of the 10-year plan to address it more so from a budgetary issue long-term with the city's infrastructure. And so I'll actually be withdrawing this legislation. I think we've got to a point now in those conversations that we're in a really good place, and this administration is already beginning to step up, and you'll see that just in previous days with the announcement of some of that infrastructure work, that's taking care of a lot of those projects. And so we'll just keep plugging away and working, but guys, I think we're in a good place now and headed in the right direction, and you can quit worrying me because well, I do have some other questions, but
So that does not require a motion, so that is just withdrawn by the sponsor. Okay, and so now we're moving on to bills on second reading. Bill 2019-4 as amended by Councilman Sledge, who was here briefly but is now gone.
Am I on that one?
Pardon?
Am I on that? What is that?
No, not. This is amends Chapter 6.04 of the Metro Code to prohibit aerial advertising. So I think we're gonna bump that maybe to the.
Yeah, we deferred it in conventions and with because we're gonna put an amendment to it. So he deferred it one or two
I
meetings.
think it's one meeting.
And I assume that was amendment, friendly amendment from Councilman Sledge's perspective. Councilman Sledge, aerial advertising,
Yes.
hoping to defer one meeting.
Convention and tourism deferred one meeting, please mirror that action.
Okay, do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, Council Lady Murphy, BL 2019-30 amends Metro Code Chapter 16.04 to restrict barbed wire and/or razor wire fencing along arterials and collector roadways within the urban zoning overlay district, and to cross-reference the existing restrictions on barbed wire and/or razor wire fencing along sidewalks in the urban services district. A letter to defer one meeting? Is there?
Yes, so I'm going to defer because I have said that I'm going to defer, but the only person that I have had questions about this was AT&T, and they gave me a list of their affected properties. I had council check that. None of those properties were affected by this new legislation, so they have withdrawn their concerns. But since I had stated that I would defer this, I'm going to defer it, but probably send a letter for approval next meeting in case I'm running around.
Understood.
So if there were any other questions, please feel free to ask now or reach out.
So I just was wondering how you chose the UZO boundary as opposed to something else.
So basically, the reason I picked it was because it was a defined boundary that was defined as what is more urban area, and so properties are closer together. There are more police precincts in the urban services, and the thought process is that there could be an argument made that barbed wire may be needed in a more rural part of the county on one of these streets where you are further away from police protection. So while the main push for this legislation is more aesthetics and who wants to walk along sidewalks or main streets that are covered in barbed wire, I could see the argument for a more rural area needing to have that. So I thought that was a good distinction.
I would make that argument.
Yeah. For committee members' reference, the UZO pretty much conforms to the old city of Nashville, though Council Lady Roberts did expand the UZO into the nation's area.
Her whole district.
Last term, right. So it's like with that caveat. Old city of Nashville plus
District
that district,
So
for reference,
So
yes.
I know that there's some along the tops of some chain link fences where there are car areas and things like that. I presume that's for protection reason.
Right, and a lot of those are, so this is what we found out, where I actually, in my district, went along this was when we had more free time at the beginning of our first term, went along Charlotte Avenue and turned in, I would say, upwards of 50 parcels that had barbed wire that was not up to code. We turned them into Metro codes. Nothing was ever done about it. And so, again, we got busy. I've been meaning to follow up. Turns out through the research for this legislation that if sidewalks are not allowed to have barbed wire there, and it's actually Public Works that can notify them and give them 5 days to get rid of that barbed wire. So kind of fascinating to learn that, a little bit of our code history that I'm sure you all look fascinated by. So I see this as kind of the next step in a two-prong approach to enforce getting rid of barbed wire, where we would like to walk and not feel like we're walking next to a security risk.
No pun intended on the prongs.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see, I need a motion to defer, please. One meeting. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Alrighty. Let's see, so Council Lady Murphy, I was gonna kind of consolidate these alley abandonments into a consent agenda of sorts, but I see that your first one here, 2019-35, amends the Geographic Information System street and alley centerline layer for the Metro government by abandoning alley number 377 right-of-way and easement, is a request to defer 2 meetings. Also, there's a proposed substitute. So you want to defer 2 meetings and address the
Yes,
substitute
that's
next time?
Councilman Taylor's
Yep.
legislation.
Okay.
He will be here next time.
Okay, great. All right. And he did request also this deferral of 2 meetings. So do you have a motion, please?
Second. So we moving the substitute or waiting?
We're going to wait to move to substitute. Yep.
It'll be a community meeting.
Okay. So that's 12 in favor, 0 against. Okay, now in an effort to consolidate and shorten our agenda, these are alley abandonments, and so these are bills 2019-36, 37, and 38. 36, Council Lady Murphy, 37, Sledge and Murphy, and 38, O'Connell and Murphy. Any objection, Councilman O'Connell, to consolidating these and voting at one time?
I have no objection.
All right, so to read these into the record, Bill 36 amends the Geographic Information System street and alley centerline layer for the metro government by abandoning alley number 691 right-of-way and easement. Can I ask, just from a staff perspective, like, nobody knows where alley number 691 is. It would be helpful, whether in the caption or the analysis, just to know, like, what streets are those between? I think that just kind of raises people's awareness about what this is affecting. And, you know, sometimes these are just kind of pro forma whatever, but I think we all recognize that decisions that were made decades ago to close certain alleys have had a very negative long-term impact. So I don't want us to get in a place where it's just like, alley abandonment, whatever, we don't care. But I think in an effort to consolidate what is always a long agenda, it would be helpful to us if we knew specifically where those are. And also, I mean, it's incumbent upon the council member, obviously, if it's in your district, if you have some concerns, to raise them. But, okay, so that's Bill 36. And then Bill 37 amends the Geographic Information System street and alley centerline layer for the metro government by abandoning alley number 402 right-of-way. Bill number 38, O'Connell and Murphy, amends the Geographic Information System street and alley centerline layer for the metro government by abandoning a portion of alley number 413 right-of-way and easement. So do I have a motion for Bills 36, 37, and 38? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then it goes on. We're almost there, colleagues. Okay. BL 2019-39, Murphy and Benedict, authorizes the metro government to negotiate and accept permanent and temporary easements for the Stratford Avenue Stormwater Improvement Project for 21 properties located along Stratford Avenue, McChesney Avenue, Gallatin Pike, and Catherine Street. Do I have a motion? Okay. Any questions or anything staff wants to share about this? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay. All right, and then let's see. I think it'll take longer to consolidate these. We're down to the last 2, so we're just going to go on through. BL 2019-40, Murphy, authorizes the metro government to abandon existing public water main and easements and to accept new public sewer and water mains, sanitary sewer manholes, and a fire hydrant assembly and easements for property located on 910 Robertson Road. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. And then lastly, BL 2019-41, Taylor and Murphy, authorizes the metro government to abandon existing easement rights located between Felicia Street to alley number 945, formerly known as 30th Avenue North. Do I have a motion? Okay.
Did y'all not have another fence bill by me?
Another which bill?
Another bill about a fence?
No, I saw that in the analysis.
One in codes.
I guess I need to get to codes.
That's not
Shoot.
fine.
I guess I've missed that, maybe, probably.
I apologize. I saw that in the analysis and thought it would be before us, but it's
No, I guess it is just a codes thing, sorry.
not here. Okay. And then colleagues, since there were only 5 of you here at the start, we did make some announcements. Among those, Vice Chair, who's going to be Mr. Zach Young. And so I'm grateful to those of you who expressed a willingness to serve, and thank you very much. Okay, and with that, we are adjourned.